Hi everybody, this is Jason Lin here, and thank you for requesting for the for this guide and to show you what are the 5 deadly mistakes that in my 20 years of career I've seen and I've compiled, and to contribute to your presentation career. Now, if you are someone who present for a living, you have to do some form of pitching, selling, closing, promoting, then this is absolutely for you. And my intention and purpose with this guide is to convince you and hopefully that you become one of my many students and to learn what I've collected over the last 20 years and help you to achieve more incomes and a more secure lifestyle, as well as to have the ability to travel, maybe to even travel in style, buy the biggest car, the fastest plane, the biggest yacht. Maybe it's just to have more confidence in your career as well as to have more family time. All right, so I'm going to go through with you in this guide what are the mistakes that's sabotaging your closing as well as causing you unreasonable objections, right? Some objections from the prospects can be really I wouldn't say nasty, but it could be very unreasonable, isn't it? All right, very quickly now, if this is the first time you're listening to me, especially if you're not from Asia, it's very normal because this is the first time that I am actually opening up my system to the rest of the world. So let me share with you who I am if this is the first time you're listening to me. Sounds good? Thank you. So, what you're looking here in this room is really the movers and the shakers of the political scene as well as the education space. They are the ambassadors and they are some of the leading authority when it comes to especially on education. And how am I able to get into this room? It's all because of this skill called pitching, presenting, promoting. This core skill of presentation and pitching got me in this room. Why and how? Very lucky because my partner, Henry, is actually the owner for the Olympic of Math competition in Asia and in Singapore. If you heard of Math Kangaroo, Math Olympiad, right? All these competitions are run by my friend Henry. And my pitching skills and my presentation skill actually got his attention, helped him with it, trained him with it, prepare him for it. And in this competition, we have to regularly address crowds of this size, right? And it can get very shaky in the leg just by watching this, isn't it? So that's who I am in the front row with the ambassadors. Really lucky, fortunate, and really grateful that I have this chance and opportunity to be able to do that with Henry and help thousands, millions of kids win the competition, help them as well as to get them into the schools of their dreams. Okay, so besides that, when I have some free time, I also organize pitching competitions to help startups raise capital. I would invite my angel investor friends to come and do sharing as well for the startups to know that if they want to raise capital, what are the things that they have to work towards to. And then we will have sometimes we will have pitching competitions as well for the startups to raise capital to manifest their dreams, hopefully to build the next innovative company and business that can really transform the lifestyle of the entire human population as well. And due to the nature of my work, I'm also invited to transfer and download my skills to the next generation leaders to help them to have skills preparing themselves for the leadership roles that they might be involved in. We call it YALA, Young Leaders Achievers, a Young Achievers Leader Academy. So my job there is to transfer them the skill set of, you know it by now, speaking, presenting, right? Not so much about pitching and selling, but more of a speaking, more of a pitching, more of a presentation, more of the principles of leadership that I've learned from my teachers and my mentors. And you might be thinking that, hey, Jason, you must be an achiever in school or you must be a scholar. Absolutely not. I've not been there at all. In fact, I was even the last in class and the teachers wrote me a note saying, at least the teacher was encouraging, saying that, never give up, work harder, right? I wish they have said that it should be work smarter. right? So I was never really academic focused. I was never really an academic student. But I got lucky because this one skill actually really got me here, and I got lucky enough to be appreciated with this skill. Fast forward today, I'm an author. I started off really 7 years selling real estate when I was 21 years old. I've got over 20 years of teaching and presentation by now. I've spoken in mostly Asia countries: Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand, Taiwan. I've also been lucky enough to be elected and nominated as the president-elect of the Rotary Club in Garden City in Singapore, the president for Yala, as well as the council member for the Singapore Scholastic Trust, right? So that's very quickly about the background of who I am, what these skills, how this skill has helped me, and what I have done with the skill as well. Okay, so now over to your turn. Now I'm going to share with you the 5 mistakes that you might be making, or if you're not, then very importantly to avoid. And if you are, then very quickly you want to remove this from your presentation, all right, or to add it in. Okay, now very quickly, now the mistake number 1 that we are going to go through is that there's no proof in your presentation. Now just prior to sharing this with you, I was asked about what is the best way to give a presentation. And my response to that question was, it really depends on what presentation you're trying to give, isn't it? It could be a presentation that you are trying to give on, let's say, keynote presentation. It could be a keynote presentation. It could be a presentation to raise capital. It could be a presentation in your boardroom to negotiate, to influence or persuade your chairman or your shareholders. It could be a presentation for selling and closing for sales, right? So very importantly, when it comes to presentation, okay, I'm not talking about, motivational keynote speeches, but it still applies anytime you want to do any form of influence, you want to do any form of persuasion, anytime you want to transfer an idea to someone else, okay. That's what I believe the presentation is all about, okay. Um, but when it comes to selling and closing, persuasion and promotion, I believe that this is the top mistake that you must be able to avoid, which is having no proof in your sharing, having no proof in your claims, having no proof in everything you're talking about. You know why? Because over 60% of people are skeptical, doubtful, worried, and fearful to make a buying decision. Okay? The last thing that they are when they sit down for presentation review, or if you are a speaker giving presentation, um, although it depends on how you market yourself, how they arrive at the spot, but generally most of the time in majority of the presentation, especially if you are someone without branding, you are someone who have not done enough marketing, you don't have a website, you don't have social media, but you are in sales, you might be a hired salesperson in the job. So it depends, right? But generally, most of the presentation that makes mistakes are because they have no proof in their presentation at all. And people are making the mistake believing and having a misconception and a misunderstanding that most prospects are going to be curious about what you have to offer. That's not true. Most people are excited about what you have. That's not true as well. So most people are skeptical, doubtful, worried, and fearful. And let me prove it to you. Okay? A study by Gartner has revealed that 77% of B2B buyers, if you don't know what B2B is, it means business to business. That means corporation to corporation. Reported that they find purchasing decisions very complex and difficult. So this complexity actually leads to the skepticism about the claims that was being made during the presentation. Okay, so buyers are very worried about making mistakes. All right. Secondly, Forrester revealed that 60% of customers are doubtful when it comes to new product claims. Okay, so at the same time, they are more likely to trust third-party reviews or word of mouth over the pitch itself. Do you see that? Okay, so It's the same in Mandarin and Chinese about how someone else saying you versus you claiming or you boasting about yourself. Got it? Now, another one is that the survey by McKinsey found that 70% of buyers express worry about post-purchase. That means the buyer's regret, such as implementation challenges. This is for B2B and software especially, ROI, or even ongoing support. Okay, and at the same time, 62% of people are fearful when it comes to making a decision that especially involve a big change in their lifestyle, a big change in their financial investment. Okay, and this fear, what is this fear driven by? Most of the time is driven by the potential of loss of money, but not really just the loss of money, but really the shame of making that decision or making a wrong decision, and the embarrassment for negative consequences. Okay, so here's the proof of what I say about you being having must have proof. Right? So in my selling, right, I sell training programs, I sell seminar programs over the years now. And one of the biggest element that you need to have is to have an overwhelming proof that your program actually has delivered results for people, actually has produced results, and also deliver a change in their lifestyle and improvement in their outcomes. Okay, so it's not about when you want to sell something, especially if you're a coach, you're an author, a consultant, okay, whether you are selling a MLM product, maybe you're selling a healthcare product, maybe you're selling, especially when you're selling some form of healthcare product, okay, what is the results that your products have delivered? And no, what is the results your products have produced, right? And what are the lifestyle changes? What are the transformative lifestyle changes of the improvement that your clients have actually experienced, as well as what kind of support you've delivered to help them achieve those results? Okay, so these are really, really important for your prospects to see that the results has been already produced. Okay, there is a new lifestyle going on. Okay, not just the direct benefit, but also the intangible benefits. In my seminars and my programs, in my webinars, I talk about how one of my students, Jeffrey, actually have a turnaround where he's celebrated in media. He also have a transformation with his wife and his mom to have dinners at home again because now he's making more money, but not because of the money itself. It's because of the change of habits that he bring back to the family, the improvement of psychology. He starts to be more positive. He starts to be more assertive, affirmative, encouraging. Okay, he stopped being the negative person, and all this positivity spills over to the lifestyle of his family. So during my seminars, during my preview, during my sharing, during my presentation, during my webinars, I talk about that story. I talk about that story all the time. And even though I have a lot of many more stories, and I pick the stories to speak about all the time. And for you, you should have one core story that you talk about all the time as well. And you might be thinking that you need to keep changing your story, okay, especially for beginners. That's not true. What do I mean? And why do I say that? Because when you are doing presentation, there's going to be two groups of buyers. One group of buyers who have never heard of you before. Therefore, they have never heard the stories before. Okay, there's like millions of buyers all around the world. You can't simply have talked to all of them, right? Secondly is the buyers who potentially have seen you, heard you, or watched you, maybe especially if you're doing some form of social media. Maybe you have publicly marketed yourself before. And sometimes the buyers have heard about it before, okay, and they enjoy listening to you live for the first time as they are going through the buying decision themselves, okay. So when it's a familiar stories, they make the purchasing decision really quickly, because it's familiar. Think about it. The last time you actually made a decision for yourself, especially when it's expensive, isn't it true? Is because that you are familiar with the process, you're familiar with the stories, you're familiar with the results, the expectation, you're familiar with the testimonials, you're familiar with the people. Because all this familiarity kicks in and sets in, therefore you feel comfortable and you are not fearful about making those choices, isn't it? Right? Okay? So as you are sharing you need to show your proof, and you need to be able to show your proof in a version where uh, it actually delivers result. Okay, not just testimonials. Not just testimonials. Let me recap. It's not just testimonials, right? Not about people sharing about their experiences. That is good, and especially if you just started, you have not produced result yet, those are still going to be relevant. But you got to work towards actually having results produced, and you got to use them in your um, presentation. Okay, you got to lead with proof, and you got to show them the proof, and you got to lead your presentation with proof right from the very beginning. For example, this, right, made a total earnings of 3,005. Industry normal was only 175. Yet, he made 3,005 in 6 months. The average went up to 600 a month. That is a 300% growth. Wouldn't you want that? How about this? This one, the client paid 50% deposit when the industry normal is only 25% and under. And this was a photography client. And if you're in photography or you're paid before to a photography package, you know that the average, you are very fearful and worried about paying 50%, isn't it? Because photographers can go MIA all the time. Okay, and also at the same time, not just one time, but continuously recurring results as well, just like one of these client called Michael. And Michael operates a laundry service, and this result got him a contract that goes on for at least 5 years now, still going on. And he has made more than 200,000 by now, right? So it's not just one-time result that you need to show. You also need to show that was there continuation. If there's continuation of the results, that's even better. And because I teach a skill that I marketed it and I promoted it, and I sincerely believe that this skill is a lifetime skill. I promoted this skill as a skill that this is a recession proof skill. At the same time, this is a skill that will last through for the entire lifetime. That's why I prove to people that it's not just, some sales program, you go there, you earn sales for one time, and then you enter a feast and famine mode. How many of you know what I'm talking about? Feast and famine mode. Where you go to the event, you make money in the first week or the first month, and 1 year later, you are stuck in a situation where your sales are up and down again. Your income is like a roller coaster again. That's what I mean, right? Because your skills are not being developed, right? Because most of the programs are they cover either too much mindset, or they cover too much about motivation. And those two things, when they come together, is kind of work very well for a short boost, like a rocket fuel. However, if the skill is not developed, it's like you getting on a bicycle and then you traveling, all right, for maybe a few tens of meters, all right, you feel good for a while, and then you kind of like can't get the bicycle going anymore. Okay, so what I teach is to help people not just ride the bicycle, but at the same time also enter the Olympic of sports. What do I mean? What I mean is when people can raise capital. Look at this. Look at this. Um, Look at this result on the right. Okay, this started off as learning sales, as learning closing, for presentation, for bodybuilding. He was selling a health program. Okay, and then after that, this skill, the same skill, actually evolved to an Olympic level where they're entering competition, going to local competition, to regional, to Olympic level, to world class, to sports team, because he went on from just trying to promote a health program or selling a health product to actually raising capital. Wouldn't you want that as well? To have a skill. And what I do is that I don't just help people get started with driving a car. I get them to become an F1 driver, should they wish to, right? To groom them, to develop them. Do you want that? Wouldn't you love it if There's one skill, you work on it over and over again, right, to get into the Olympic, and you can use that skill everywhere you go. Now, why would most people don't get there? Now, because most programs, and yourself included, you're delivering a presentation that is very overwhelming. You think that the presentation is all about delivering the information, that the presentation is all about selling and selling and selling, okay? And you feel, and you keep giving and giving because you're such a nice person. You're a nice person, you're kind, and you're always about giving. And you hear the phrase before about how givers are leaders, and when you give, you get, right? Givers get, okay, leaders gain, right? So therefore, you give and give during your sharing, during your presentation, during your meeting, during your conversation. And you know what? At the end of the day, your meetings don't turn into money. Your conversation doesn't produce cash. And what you end up with is frustration when you go back to your family, isn't it? Right? So what we want to do is we don't want that. We want to make sure that your presentation starts to produce profits that you can sell when you speak. Okay? So in your presentation, the job is not to deliver information, it's not to sell, sell, and sell. Your job in your presentation, first, you need to lead with proof. Second, you need to have the ability to connect. Right? The job of the presentation is to connect. For example, in my presentation, I share my story about how I got here, okay? And and I share my story about how in my childhood that I lived a very suppressed lifestyle, and I was not told to ask any questions. I was told to, you know, um, be quiet. If you're so smart, why are you not rich? Okay, so I lived pretty much a very quiet lifestyle, right? Now, I live a very quiet lifestyle, and until one day I saw my loved ones in the hospital, and I was feeling three things. I was feeling helpless, I was feeling powerless, and I was feeling worthless. And it was that day, that point onwards, that I decided that I need to actually hold up my family. I need to be the income getter. I need to be the breadwinner. I need to be able to provide because and produce the lifestyle for my family and produce the income so that when it happens again, I'm not worthless, I'm not helpless, and I'm not useless again. That's where I started my sales career, because sales is the number one career in the world where the income has no limit, isn't it? Now that's not true, because we all have a limit. We all have a limit on the top of our ceiling, and that's called our time. We all have a time. And one day I was traveling with my family back home. Our Uber Grab driver lost control of the car, and we went to the opposite traffic. And if this had been 5 minutes later, I would not have been here, been able to share with you my system, my process, and my secrets, and the science behind all my research, my 20 years of experience. Because we would have been gone with the oncoming traffic and be taken out. And it was in that moment I realized that sales actually do still have a limit on our income. The limit is called time. And I realized in that moment how powerless I was again, how useless I was feeling, how worthless I am experiencing, and how helpless I am. So, and I realized that I did not want to actually die a useless person. I did not want to die with a nameless tomb with nobody to visit. And in that moment, my fears got triggered. This and my fears triggered to the point where I realized that I really don't want to die in poverty. And I really hate criticism. I need to be able to improve myself so that my health, so that I can live healthily. And I hate to lose my loved one over things that I cannot control, or to die in old age and dying a useless person. And that's why I started doing what I do. And that's why I help people to avoid all of this as well. And if you're someone who can resonate and relate and connect to these fears, as well as you understand, you lived through some form of childhood similar to me, you would understand that power of communication is the essence of everything, isn't it? Right? So your presentation is meant to connect with your audience is allowing your audience to connect with you. And this is one of those stories that I shared during my presentation to help people understand me, to connect the dots for people, to transfer a motivation, to let them know why is it what I do or what I do, right? And then I go on to share a story about Li Chuang, who also started learning
Thanks,
from me.
Jason, for
But
the time with me.
what happened is,
I really want to improve myself, to be more daring, to share with more people, to help people to get back their health better. Jason, I sincerely very grateful to you for sharing me what I should do and what should I not do.
so this is Li Chuang, right? After she learned from me, she was very excited, she was very motivated, she was very happy. And then what happened? The next time I hear from about her was that she's already passed, and it was so sad, you know. And in that Chinese that you don't understand,
Thanks,
or you might not
Jason,
understand
for the
if you are
time
not
with me.
Mandarin speaking, right?
Thanks, Jason.
Okay, that Mandarin, what it's talking about is that humans in our life don't have that many 10 years. Some people approaching their 40s and may not have this chance, the chance of learning what I taught her, right? Um, so this is the kind of stories that I shared during my presentation, right from the very beginning. Not and and the purpose of presentation, as I shared with you, is not to just deliver information. It's not to just sell. Is the job of the presentation is the role of presentation is for you to connect. When you're selling, the job is really to connect with people, to have the ability to connect with people, to have a common ground. Okay, without that, no sales can ever go through, right? So in terms of selling, it is the ability to connect with people. It is the having your presentation to allow yourself to connect with other people, right? Then in closing, when you're doing closing, okay, which we'll get to that, in doing closing, you are trying to give people a gift. You're connecting with people and then you're gifting them with your product, your service, or your solutions. Got it? Great. So who else is seeing having some epiphany and you're having some dots that's connecting in your head, and maybe you are even having some sparkles, your breakthroughs. Are you getting that? Right? So now the next mistake that most people make, the third one, okay, is that you don't use visuals at all. You're using testimonial in terms of words, okay? Maybe the only visuals you're using is the face, all right? Your visuals, you don't use any visual cues, okay? At the same time, your visuals, you are probably using it in the wrong sequence, okay? Now, let me explain to you and share with you one thing. Have you seen this? Where, let's look at this. The dog beat Johnny, Johnny beat the dog. My question to you is this. Are the two of the meaning the same at all? Of course not, right? The words can be the same, the words exactly were the same, but the meaning is so much different, isn't it? By just simply moving the sequence, everything changes. So my question to you is, could you be actually saying the right things, but in a wrong way, and sabotaging your closing, unnecessarily creating confusion and causing unreasonable objections showing up at the end of your presentation? So my friends, is this skill worth your attention, and have I convinced you that I can help you? If I do, and you want to learn more, then there should be a link somewhere on this page. Visit the link, click on the link, and I'll see you on the other side.